Very good. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see the room filled so much after long days of much information being shared by SAP and many presenters here. So I hope you're all energized after lunch break and ready for another set of sessions. So thanks for joining me here. My name is Olaf Schoenfelder. I'm product manager in LeapGreat, and I would like to share in this session here how LeapGreat dramatically reduces the risk, the effort, and the complexity of S/4HANA implementations. And as we learned this morning, you should always understand the issue and the challenge you have ahead of you. So I thought how to open this up. It happened that a few weeks back, I met an SAP colleague. She is involved in big implementation projects right now, especially in the automotive industry in Germany. So I had a conversation with her and she shared a lot of things I heard also from other projects. So I thought it would be nice if she would help me to set the stage for this presentation and share some of the insights she gained from the projects she was involved in. So please welcome with me Christiane Hellwig from SAP. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Olaf, for having me.
So we had conversations about a few projects you have been involved in, and you shared also with me the challenges in those projects. So I remember there was one very traumatic experience you had with one of the projects. Please share with the audience.
Yeah, that's true. So one traumatic experience, I would say, was that a go live has moved 6 months into the future, and one of the reason was the data migration. So it was too late, and also the quality was insufficient.
So most likely all the preparation for data migration happened too late, so the go live went into issues.
Yeah, right.
So you're engaged with SAP customers prior to go live, during go live, but also after go live, being in the services organization. So quality is one of your topics you need to take care of. I remember there was another example where quality really was an issue in a go live. Could you share with us, please?
So we had one example regarding the documentation. So the documentation was quite old, I would say, in the point of time at the go live. And this was quite hard to find a root cause as soon as possible, and also a fast solution. And this is also a big risk because in the worst case it costs time and also money. So that's also experience which was for us good to learn to support the customer.
So documentation is important, especially if you run into issues, to better and faster find out what the issue has been. And I think there was another example where you looked at end-to-end processes, but during go live or after go live, you ran into issues. So what had happened in that project?
Yeah, that's also true. And that was because of there were silos in the work streams at the customer, and they work just conceptually. And the risk of the silos was that we had broken end-to-end processes. And in my opinion, it's really important to have a big picture of the processes and also the dependencies of each and every process. So
it's important to make sure that all work streams work together and align their results, so you end up with end-to-end processes. And I think you had one funny story, and I think it would be nice to share that funny story with the audience.
Yeah, in one of the projects, there was not enough time to train the employees in the goods receipt. And so it happened that we lost a consulting colleague of us for a few hours in the middle of the night. Because he supported the customer then to unload the trucks but it works quite good, and everything was fine then, and we were totally happy that we got him back as SAP employee.
And obviously he helped the customer to get the processes done in time, so the production
it
and
was
all the
for
materials.
the customer, it was very good to see how he works as a new employee in the goods received. He had the knowledge, and he trained in this situation also the employees in in the same time like he unload the trucks.
Did they offer him a job, or is he still with SAP?
He's still at SAP.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Chrissy, thanks a lot for sharing this.
Thank you for having me.
So many of the issues we heard are related to the fact that the reality, so the real system, appears really late in the project. You run through all the different phases with discovery, prepare, explore, and then once you start realizing, this is when the actual system appears, and you realize, oh, maybe there has been misunderstandings, maybe there's not enough time to test data migration, as one of the examples Chrissy shared with us. So this is basically a backloaded system, a backloaded project where you're further down you are on the road, the cost of changing your design increases tremendously, while at the same time the ability to change your design really becomes very low. So in those backloaded projects, basically then you discover maybe gaps, end-to-end testing, as one of the examples Chrissy mentioned with us, are not completed, so you run into issues after go live. And then in many projects you need to deal with those situations. That might lead to scope creep, that might to doing compromises, that might go to replanning and rebudgeting your project, moving out the go live dates. And those projects sometimes go in really difficult situations. So unfortunately, this is happening quite a lot. So just looking in the audience, does it resonate with some of your experiences? So I would like to invite you on a journey and an imagination how you could maybe change that. So instead of backloading such a project, how about we start a project with an implemented system? Now you will wonder, how should that work, because that's the result of the project. But how about you start the project and equip the project with an S/4HANA system that comes with SAP best practices, processes relevant for your business, so you can already see the process in there. More importantly, equip the system with the data of your business, meaning when you show procurement processes, you have your materials, you are procuring this from your suppliers, you see your customers in there. Not all, maybe 5 customers, maybe 10, 20 materials, maybe 3 suppliers, that's good enough. And you will see, once you share the system and you see the system and your business looks at the system, they can so much more easily relate to their tasks, to their processes. They see their world in the new SAP environment. So what we do with this, such a system is integrated for all the processes. So when you do purchasing, etc., you can go into the finance side. You will see everything on the right cost and profit center. So everything is integrated from this process point of view. This is very important because that gives you not only a sandbox, not a model company, not a POC company. This is your version 0 of your development environment. So this allows you then, after a rapid build, to basically go into rapid refinement. When I say rapid build, then we talk about spinning off such a system within 1, maybe 2 weeks. So this is where LeapGreat has built out capabilities to be really fast in building up such a system with those best practice processes, and extended this with customer information. Now, in a rapid refinement, we basically go through, based on SAP Activate methodology, we go through those fit to standard workshops, process by process by process. We expose not only swim lanes and all the content from tools like Signavio, but we can also then look at the system. We can show the system processes in there, and it's amazing how much that triggers questions and comments from a customer. So we recently were engaged with a company that ran a project for 9 months, and the implementer created a 400-page Word document describing how the future system will look like. The business people were absolutely overwhelmed. They couldn't judge if this is what they really need or not. So they asked us to come in. So after a few conversations to understand their business and deriving from that what business processes they might require, they gave us a few data. So we spun off a system and walked them through 4 of their end-to-end processes, meaning from customer order all the way through fulfilling the order, and then looking into the finance side to see what you have purchased, what has the customer paid you money. And with that, they were seeing the end-to-end process, and they started immediately asking questions. So that means we don't have to download data into Excel and massage data there. We can use those reports. Oh, maybe we can do things differently than we do today. So there were a lot of ideas what to do. We also got feedback which parts of the process would potentially not fit. So we got immediate feedback, and then in the next step, we go in the system and we refine the process. So we adjust the process for those parts the customer's not agreeing, or where the customer requirements don't fit to this process. So what LeapGreat brings to the table is we have an automation to spin off such a system very quickly. We learn in the process what needs to be added. So the business processes from SAP, the best practice processes we bring in, come with a minimal scope. For some reason, the human being is more willing to add things instead of giving up things. So we come in with the minimal set of process steps, and once we have the conversation, we can use the automation to bring in additional steps from best practices once needed, so we better meet the business requirements. We also come with a navigation, because if you hand over an S/4HANA system to a customer, what would they do with it? They don't know how to touch Fiori. They don't know where to find the processes. So we give them, and I will show this in a second, we give them a navigation to understand what is in the system and where do I need to touch the system and can run certain processes. And then we have a factory approach. Once we get the feedback, we refine immediately refine the system. This is not only relevant for the business processes, but that also is relevant for all the developments you have to do. So look at your integration, look at your workflow, look at your forms, your reports. Maybe you need to extend certain functionality, but to look also at data migration, testing. Once those processes are there, you can immediately start creating your test cases. And when you then continue to change other processes, you can always test the first processes you have already agreed on with the customer. So what I would like to do is quickly go into the system. What you find here looks very familiar to you, because this is content we derive from Signavio. So we always are based on what is being modeled in Signavio. So you have a description using a swim lane format of a process with several roles. What we did, in addition, we extended the content. So of course you have the business roles which are included in this process. We also assigned the relevant reports and analytical capabilities those roles will need during such a process. And we have also created put in the operational data. So let me show you an example. Like the first step in this process, this is sell from stock. And in the first process step, you would create a sales order. So we have here the description step by step what you have to do in an SAP system. So you log on with a particular role. You run a certain app, manage sales order, then you hit the create button. Now then you have to put in data, but what data do you have to put in? So we have based the system based on best practices, but as I said earlier, we have also equipped or replaced data from best practices with customer data. So in this example, we are using what is provided by SAP when it comes to organizational data like company code, maybe purchasing organization, sales organization, but that particular customer has master data, which we also need for the process. So this is a manufacturer of pens. So you find your customers that are purchasing pens from this company. You find you find a few materials which are related to producing a pen, and you find the suppliers for this material. So those are the data then very personalized to this particular company we're talking to. So once we go through this process here, they see, oh, this is the business we do. So we normally work with those suppliers and get our material from. So it's so much easier for them to relate to this. What we also do, and you as architects are involved in those discussions a lot, we want to make it really, really easy for the people to see the process. So we have a little set of icons, and the first icons actually takes us to the SAP system, to the Fiori app in order to create the sales order. And in this Fiori app then, we can go through those steps which I just showed in the system here. So we hit the create button, we say we want to create a sales order, and then I can, based on the data we have linked and mentioned in this process, go through this particular process and start getting the feedback from the customer. So is the way you can work in the future? Do we need to alter and adjust this process, and can do rapid refinement in order to make sure this the process and the setup is working? So try to find very early in the project what are the critical things, what are challenges, and you will have enough time to then adjust the system by that. Does it resonate? Any comments, any questions?
One question. So how do you prepare the system if there is an integration with other SAP system, like when you are creating a sales order, it has to check the GTS or something? How do you prepare that?
So we have systems like, of course, BDP, and we have SAP Analytics Cloud in that. If it goes into non-SAP systems, of course, when we set up the system, there's no integration in non-SAP. But this is one of the things we are already doing early as well. So the main integration points are being addressed at a very early stage in the project. So you see, do you run into any challenges? Which data come over? Do they follow the right process? And what we do is we define the highest level end-to-end process, including feeding the SAP system with data, but also then feeding data into non-SAP systems once the data are produced in the SAP system. By that, we have basically what we call a critical path for the business processes to make sure this end-to-end process is working at the very, very early stage in a project, and then you can go into the details, if you need to do exception handling and all the other processes. So this is one of the paradigms we have here, to look at the highest end-to-end process first, to make sure this is being visible in the system very early. You get feedback and you identify challenges you have known of. Does that answer your question? I'll come to this. Yeah, very good. Any other questions? So your question is related to data migration. How do we handle data migration? So how is that process different from selective data migration? So at this stage, when we set up a system, we do not touch a productive system. As simple as filling out a Excel sheet with give me like your 5 suppliers, give me like 10 materials. This is as simple as providing us as either in an Excel sheet or any other format. So we are not using tools for that. What we do is we use a lot of tools in order to spin off the system and then integrate this data there. But data migration is one of the topics we try to allow to start very, very early. So once the system is there at the very beginning, and we have the first few processes, those processes might require data from your old system. So start building the migration path for this set of data, so you have them in there, and you can run the processes you have agreed on already with a first set of migrated data to test if the quality is right, if you have gotten the right data over in the system. So there is the chance to move data migration, which is often very, very late in the process, you can move that at the very beginning. So I think data migration and change management are often the two critical success factors for a project. And if you have a chance to move this early into the project, you have a chance to identify challenges and find solutions for that without having time pressure or budget constrictions. Question? So I will come to brownfield on my next slide. So if I am allowed to park this question, but thanks, very good. Please. Yes.
Using this as a version to get the customers familiarized with the system, what is going to be the process, but the real S4 HANA migration is going to happen at a later point in time. Am I right in my understanding? That's going to be
so your question is, what is this version 0 system? Is that the final system, or is it just a sandbox? So it's the version 0 of your development system. It's a real system. In case SAP doesn't provide the first system on time, we are happy to run the first version on our infrastructure, and one SAP has released in RISE environment. We'll just put in the investment to move everything over what was already developed jointly with the customer. Please.
You may have already said this, but yeah, I'm assuming it's all out of the box. So you're just going to give them hey, here's how it works out of the box, and then rapid development for where you need to, right?
So the question is that out of the box, and we do rapid build and rapid development, rapid refinement? That's exactly the way it is. So we really depend on the best practices SAP is providing. Of course, through the projects, we have extended that content library, because SAP has not provided best practice for each and every module, but for most of the modules. So this is something which we use in order to set up the system. Those are the processes. I've started as a developer at SAP. So those are the processes. As a developer, you work with customers and you understand this is how the industries are working. And this is what SAP proposes also for you as a customer, to stay close and follow a clean core strategy and stay close to the SAP standard processes.
So if you have an existing ECC and you've got customization there, the idea is show out of the box so that you can replace it out of the box. Replace your customization with it, right?
So the question is, what would you do with an ECC system that is highly customized? Is that the approach to validate if the customization you have existing today could be replaced by out-of-the-box business processes from SAP? Yes, the answer is yes. One more question, very good. No. So the proposal is a greenfield proposal. I come to the brown and blue flavor. So the first system has nothing to do with the existing ECC system. It's really a system based off best practices plus the data, so the business people can really understand, oh, this is my business. It's whatever, it's manufacturing and it's not insurance business, for instance. So question was greenfield, brownfield, bluefield. So I find it sad that the industry is really divided into you can either do greenfield or brownfield. I think brownfield has a lot of advantages, like it's perceived as being cheaper, faster, less disruptive to the business. On the other side, SAP has put in a lot of money to develop S/4HANA and bring in new standards, best practices, help customers to spend less money on upgrades, etc., by promoting a clean core approach. So, this is illustrative, of course, but, imagine you're running a horse carriage and you do a brownfield and then you end up with a fantastic, nice car, but it's actually the horse pulling the car. So, I mean, there is, I believe, a chance where you can have a case-by-case decision. So what we have seen works really good. If you're open for a greenfield, but you might have a lot of things in your system which you don't want to lose, go step by step, go process by process, evaluate the future based on the front load system we provide, determine, can I work with the business processes SAP is proposing, and then you go green. There might be things you have developed in your actual productive system which are of value, which are not supported by standard best practice processes, and then you decide, okay, then I don't do a fit to standard, I do a fit to past. And if there are processes which you require and there's not even elements in the old system, then you can even go by fit to design. So if you go process by process, you can decide on the process itself, on data migration, on how to use what type of technology based on certain systems. Do you want to stay on-prem for maybe a non-SAP system, or do you want to go cloud? So there's so many aspects where I can decide, do I want to go green, or is there value in what I'm having today and I should stick to that? So we promote start to be as green as possible, because this allows you to take advantage of all the innovations and cool things SAP put in the S/4HANA, and for those things that wouldn't work, go for brown. So I shared you how we provided the navigation. So we provide a working system, but we also provide a proposal for a working project. So what does it mean? As architects, you have a role to bridge three elements which are often very hard to bridge. You try to bridge all the business processes together with various different roles in your business, but also very different roles in the project, and you try to bridge this with technology. Technology, so systems you need in your productive environment, but this also includes all the different tools that will allow you to have a hopefully very smooth implementation project. So there are tons of tools out there that will help you in an implementation project, but it's for each project a very tough decision. So what are the right tools for me to use? SAP is proposing a lot of tools, but there are also many vendors out there supporting implementation projects with their set of tools. So how go about this? So we have done a lot of implementation projects, and we are willing to come in with a proposal for you as a starting point for discussion with some guidance. And we have used the navigation, which we started off with to show a customer system, to extend this navigation to also show how you could link all the relevant tools into such an environment. And I would like to show this in the system. So going back to my processes. So here we have the list of business processes that are being activated in the system. Just need to start the solution again. I hope not. SAP guest is good. There we go. So what you see is that for all those business processes that are activated, we have a version for LeapGreat, but we also have the link to SAP's best practices. So this is exactly the process you see in the SAP Signavio environment. So I'm jumping here. This is the process navigator, which is part of Signavio. So this is most likely what you have seen throughout implementation projects, where you have the swim lanes with the different roles and the steps. You see that SAP has big processes defined in order to capture all the functionality. And this is something where we try to reduce to minimum, so we can show all the relevant steps and then start extending steps if necessary. In such a process, and let me just go to one of the steps here, we have linked directly to the process also the element of testing. So if I click on this icon, I'll see the test history of various tests we did before. And in some projects, maybe the tool Tricentis is being used. So we guide the consultants and who's working here and the business user directly to this test tool, so it's integrated. And I'm happy Patrick is in the room, so maybe quick word for you on the testing side.
Shake hands in testimony of a very good partnership here. Unfortunately, I need to go. Paul is getting nervous because I need to speak and I need to get cabled up. But I wanted to say something here. The whole story of start early really becomes very tangible here, because if we test already during the project, and if we test with test automation, because we have already the specifications of test cases being put together during the project, now we're setting the foundation for continuous innovation. Okay, so this is, I think, what I like the best about LeapGreat, and don't think of them simply as a fast means to get to your target S4, but also as a modus operandi. It's a factory working style with quality embedded from the very beginning. And with that, back to Sander. And sorry, I need to leave early.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks for joining the session. So this is one of the examples where we try to make it really easy for the project team to have also a central location to reach out all the tools. So another example is, in your project you will identify a lot of work you need to do. So you're not along a process, you not only discuss the business process steps itself, but also what type of maybe workflows do you need. So all the RISEFs, forms, reports, and so on. So you can have a chance to put a record into this navigation, just to mark, okay, here's something you need to do. But of course, to monitor the execution of somebody building a workflow, that doesn't sit here. That belongs to a project management tool. So SAP promotes SAP Cloud ALM as a project management tool. And to make it really easy, once you have put a record in here that, for example, you need a workflow, we automatically create a task in the SAP Cloud ALM tool, where then a project manager is looking at all those tasks, making sure that those tasks are then being assigned to the right person. So here I have like Bob Cummings is responsible to create a workflow. And what's the time box, what's the status, etc. And that allows them basically a project manager to align and assign all tasks to a timeline, to the right people, and by that have a chance to monitor then all the activities that needs to be done. So while you discuss all the items that needs to be done along a process, we need to make sure that all the information is then being forwarded to the right tool set. So I showed you testing, I showed you Signavio and the processes, I showed you link into Cloud ALM. So there are many, and you see here we have basically created a list of workspaces. So the implementation team has the access to BTP, has access to Lean IX for the target architecture. You have a team looking at migration, so you can link in all the tools you need for migration. For adoption and organizational change management, there's a lot of information early available for somebody who works on organizational change management to understand which people do I need to train and what type of tasks will be different in the future and what are the tools within SAP for them to use. So what we have done is we have created a view, since we do have the process steps which are assigned to roles, often roles. Like here, in this case, I have a general accountant, and a general accountant has assigned business roles within the SAP system. And normally, a person has assigned more than one role in a system. So he might be an asset accountant, accountant payable, accountant receivable accountant. So from that, we can derive what are the business processes such a person will take part in, and what are the tasks he needs to do. So it becomes almost like a job description. And since we also have assigned the relevant reports to that, we also can tell that person, hey, those are the sets of analytical capabilities you will require in order to do your job. So we try to make it really simple, in this case for somebody who works on change management, to understand for this role, those are the activities, and by that you know which screens, which Fiori apps and so on you need, what are the reports. So by that, people can start very, very early in order to define all the activities, in order to also support change management. Now, with what you have seen is we really try to bring the big challenges and the hard things early into the project. So by that, we have seen we can dramatically reduce the risk that the result at the end of a realization phase don't fit and don't meet the expectations of the business, especially the business users. By coming in with best practices, you automatically get agreement for many of the process steps, so you don't have to spend any more time. So the remaining time of the project you spend with those processes the customer's not agreeing with. So it becomes faster, and you also bring it down when it comes to the complexity. And at the end, since processes are much earlier available, the business can always check, hey, we have certain goals set up and an outcome set up for the huge investment we do into S/4HANA. They can early make sure this is being achieved. Like in a finance transformation, you want to make sure you close your books not after 30 days, but maybe after 14 days. So that's something you can always check while you have a system available, and which is maybe tough if you only run in a conceptual effort. So what I really want to get across is, while traditional projects have a huge challenge at the very end of the project, where in the realization phase, the reality becomes visible and the system appears very late, we can come in and help you with proposing you a system, which we know it's not perfect, but it's a great start to have a discussion not only on a conceptual level, but also hands-on in the system. By that, help everybody to imagine much, much easier how a future would look like when using SAP S/4HANA. With that, I would like to open it up for the last round of sessions, questions. It's so the fathers of best practices and model companies are actually now part of LeapGreat. So we are using that, but we take it one step further. So the model company has maybe generic processes which might not all fit to your business. So we come in with selecting the right processes and also bringing in your data. So it's also representing your business. Again, the processes might not be 100% correct. They will not be 100% correct, but that is then part of the refinement phase to make sure you adjust the processes so they help you to support your business. But it's one step further than the model company, correct? So the question is this is a pre-phase to that? Yeah, there's a pre-phase to zero when we have a conversation, what is your business, what do you do? And we derive from that what are the right processes that require your business. Correct. Question?
Yeah, in your experience, I'm curious about the relationship of where the implementation partner comes into play with your customers. So if you've already engaged an implementation partner, you're going through some of this work, and you decide, oh, this might be a really good idea to implement. Explain to me how that kind of works.
So the question is, how do we work together with implementation partners, at which stage and with time? So we are open to different types of models. We can, if it's, we are not an implementation company. We come in with an approach, with a tool. We do have consultants that can help out. So if it's a small project, we can do that. But typically, we do work together with implementation partners. So everything which is related to adjusting the and activating business processes, that's something which we can do really, really quick. But when it comes to development, like the RISEFs, workflows, etc., that is traditional implementation work. So here we also work with partners together. Even one of the big four is appraising us in Europe, where we jointly go out and do bids and help customers to run through bigger projects, even rolling out a template in many subsidiaries. So we have small company customers, but also huge multinational companies. Please take the microphone.
It's a mining company. They have basically, they're doing the project. They're the master systems integrator, and they're leveraging ourselves to, in their case, they had a concept, they called it conference room pilot. But they had no real way to actualize that, so they could see an actual system, and then that system could then rapidly be deployed. So their team is there, but they're probably 90% of that, supplemented with some coaching and consulting from us, but leveraging the platform to stand up the initial system and then go through this rapid process. But I will tell you, it takes a bit of a mindset change, because traditional systems integrators will want to do the long project. They'll want to do a lot of archaeology up front, all this analysis. And we just found from the experts in our company, they were involved with so many escalations with SAP over the years, and they all come down to this problem is, you're doing all this on paper, you got to start seeing your system up front. So this particular partner really embraced that, and for this customer who wanted to see that because they were frustrated with past experiences. And so it's really that the SI has to have a mindset towards doing some of these things differently. And some of them may be a little bit of a challenge because they have risk management parts to their business that make them make sure that you're signing off on stuff early, and they take you through this more traditional way. But the interesting part on this other integrator, they're still going to have the customer sign off, do their whole risk management, but they think it's actually a stronger story because everybody is aligned because they can see it in the system and know that then here's the long list of RICEFs and special stuff we have to do afterwards. And they actually see that it would kind of compress down the time and effort on the project. So I don't know if that helps from an example. Yeah. And
another question.
On an average, like how much percentage of saving in terms of time and cost and all that can happen?
yeah, maybe I can, if I can give you a little bit of an interesting story. This is just my own personal experience. So my background, I'm involved with LeapGreat. Is that coming through okay? But I actually was the CEO of a company that SAP acquired. And one of the early things that we were doing there is it was in the financial services business. We were doing basically what we called sort of the super suite, where you could take everything of SAP to run a business. So one of the first customers was an insurance company, and they wanted to do this in Southeast Asia. And we went to SAP and said, okay, here it is. We're now part of this. It's integrated. Let's do this. SAP Services estimated it as 35,000 man days. And then so we happened to, with one of the colleagues, I said, you got to talk to this group over here. That's the group that now is part of LeapGreat. And they said, no, you can do this project in a different way. Front load this whole thing before they even had the platform, the tool set. Took it to SAP. SAP said, oh, that's risky, 40,000 man days. And we convinced them to let the team do it. It turned out to be 5,600 man day project, as an example. The company in Europe, their first implementation, working with this, they were kind of cautious, but they went and told the customer, we commit to saving 25% over our bid on this just because of LeapGreat. And so our personal experience is, we think that this stuff should be less than half. And the reason we say that is a lot of these projects have what I call swirl. They swirl with changes and all that kind of stuff, and you eliminate a lot of that to compress that down, taking that to the front. So it's a different, more modern way to do it. And gives you that opportunity, I think, to address the issue that I see with a lot of customers. It's, do I go brownfield, and where's the value? And it's not that, as you see from Olaf, it's a blend. This is never one or the other. It's sort of a blend, especially if you've got a large customized ECC. It's kind of, but how do you know how to pick that, and how do you prevent the business just from replicating what they already got? How do you move them that? So the only way we think is to let them see it. And so one of the things I always tell them is, like, what you see is what you vet. So you're going to vet. It's kind of the future. So as opposed to WYSIWYG, it's what you see is what you vet is. Anyway, so yeah.
So just to be fair to the next presenter, we will be outside the room. If there are any more questions, happy to engage in conversations. Thank you very much for being here, for being a very active group and asking so many questions. With that, thank you very much.